The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
Okay, so get this, right? We got this interview, and it is wild. Chase Hughes, ex-military interrogator turned, wait for it, neuroscientist.
Talk about a resume, right?
Seriously. So we're diving deep into all this juicy stuff, like how to read people, spot those lies, even how our modern world is messing with our heads a little. Ready for this?
Absolutely. What gets me about Hughes is he takes this super intense, spy stuff and makes it relatable, everyday life stuff,
Right. It's not all like catching double agents. It's about navigating like that awkward work party or something.
Totally.
And he starts with this whole masks thing, not literal masks, but
personas we put on.
yes, to hide insecurities,
Yeah.
past hurts, all that.
Yeah, and he's got this great example about, the guy who's always bragging, deep down might be masking some serious fear.
Okay, that is spot on. It's like,
Yeah.
what is it? A chihuahua barking to sound tough so it doesn't get stepped on?
Exactly. Makes you think, what are we all hiding behind?
Right, like what message am I sending without even realizing it?
He says you got to ask, what does this person want me to feel about them? Changes how you see things.
So true. But then it's not just what we hide, but how we handle ourselves. Hughes talks about discipline, or lack of it.
It sends a message, too. Like, if you can't even control your diet, can people trust you with bigger things? That kind of thing.
Whoa, yeah. Never thought of it like that. So we're observing all this, but how do we actually, decode it? Hughes talks about these techniques, elicitation, right?
Yeah, super sneaky.
Yeah.
Instead of grilling someone directly, you kind of nudge them into revealing stuff.
It's like mental jujitsu or something.
Right. He gives the example, you could say, Uber drivers, they say that's the happiest job ever, even if it's not true.
And then they correct you. Boom, information revealed.
Exactly. Where you slip in a, quote, fact figure.
Hmm.
Something may be off. They can't help but jump in.
So good. Or like a well-placed, I bet that's stressful. Get them to open up about what's really bugging them.
Gets them every time. But then, beyond words, there's micro-expressions. This is where it gets spooky.
Straight out of spy movies. Like what a twitch means they're lying.
It was super quick, these flashes of true emotion.
What is it?
Increased blinking, stressed, pupils dilated, maybe fear, even lips. They can betray you.
No way! We're giving away all our secrets with our faces.
Basically. Hughes tells this story. He's watching his friend on FaceTime with a girl.
Oh, no, I sense drama.
Just from her micro-expressions, Hughes is like, dude, she is lying through her teeth.
No way. So what do you do to confront them?
Well, he's got this golden bridge technique. It's more about, giving them a safe way to come clean.
Instead of aha, busted.
Exactly. You empathize, downplay the issue, even shift blame a little. Make it easier to fess up.
Wow, that's kind of deep, actually. So it's not just for huge lies, right? Like everyday stuff, too.
Totally. Friend fudging the truth. Instead of calling them out, build that golden bridge.
Yeah. This is gold. We're spotting lies, reading faces. But then Hughes takes it up a notch, talking about how we're all living in this simulation. It's like, we're talking about masks, right? But then, boom, the whole world's a simulation. It's a lot.
Right. And it's not like, oh, we're in the Matrix. It's more subtle.
Like we're swimming in this sea of perfect images, perfect lies.
It's social media ads. It's this whole fake reality that's easy to buy into.
And then you feel bad about yourself because your life's not that curated highlight reel. I've been there. But Hughes says this simulated living, it's not just harmless fun, is it?
Right. He calls it ancestor confusion. Basically, our poor caveman brains haven't caught up to all this modern craziness.
Wait, explain that.
Think about artificial light all night, food that's been, engineered in a lab. Our bodies, our minds, they're not meant for this.
It's like that thing you take an orca, majestic in the ocean, you stick it in a theme park tank, no matter how nice that tank is.
It's never going to be the ocean, right? The orca is going to suffer. Hughes says we're kind of like that, stuck in a world that's not truly for us.
And that's where Bopath comes in, right?
Yeah, he coined that term. The idea that all this simulation stuff is actually making us sick mentally, physically, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
It all ties in.
Okay, that's kind of scary, honestly. So how do we escape? Go off the grid, live in a yurt.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't say that. He talks about these dopamine maps. Basically, figuring out where you're getting those little hits of good feelings from in your life.
So what, I eat a cookie, dopamine rush, I get a bunch of likes on my latest post, dopamine rush.
Exactly. But it's about noticing the pattern. Is your dopamine all coming from external validation? Or is some of it coming from, genuine accomplishment, connection with loved ones?
Because if it's all external, then you're always chasing that next hit, right?
Exactly. And it's a recipe for unhappiness. He suggests, like, actually drawing out your dopamine map. What areas of your life are giving you those hits? Work, relationships, social media.
So if my Instagram bubble is, like, glowing red hot on that map.
Maybe time to reassess. It's not about judging, it's about awareness. Are those dopamine sources serving you?
And it's not always other people, right? It can be those stories we tell ourselves.
Totally. That inner critic, that voice saying you're not good enough, that can be a messed up dopamine loop too.
Okay, so I see the problem. But how do you change it? Our brains are kind of wired for this stuff, aren't they?
It's like training a dog, he says.
Yeah.
You don't just yell, stop barking. You got to be consistent. Use positive reinforcement. Same with our brains.
So baby steps. But what about bigger changes? Like, my apartment isn't going to redecorate itself to disrupt my routine.
Well, he does say little things help. Rearrange furniture, try a new coffee shop. It's about shaking up those autopilot patterns.
Get out of the rut, literally. I like it. But it still feels like there's this bigger thing, right? Like the whole system we live in kind of pushes us towards this simulated life. It's true, you can't just like run off to a cabin in the woods and ignore the world, right? And Hughes gets that. But then he starts talking about cults, and I gotta admit, that threw me.
It's a curveball, right?
Yeah.
But he uses it to show, like, even though cults are obviously bad news, they kind of nail that human need to belong, to have a purpose. Like, you've got your insider lingo, your rituals. It's intense.
Okay, so how do we get that good stuff, the belonging, the purpose, without the whole creepy cult thing?
He talks about creating your own, like, identity statement. What are your core values, really? It's like your compass, when things get messy, helps you stay true to you.
Love that. And finding your people, right? Those who get it, who share those values.
Your tribe. And he's big on rituals, even small ones, to solidify those connections. Like, write a letter to your future self. Where do you want to be? Check in on your progress.
Ooh, I might actually try that. But, okay, it can't just be on us as individuals, right? Like, society's kind of set up to keep us in this simulated loop.
He talks about shifting from scarcity to abundance. Like, instead of competing for scraps of validation, what if we celebrated each other's wins, supported each other?
He gave that example, that community where if someone's struggling financially, everyone chips in. It's like radical generosity instead of every man for himself.
Exactly. And it goes back to that dopamine. We're so used to external validation, but what if true fulfillment comes from, like, real connection, purpose, making a difference?
So big takeaway, question everything, be mindful of your dopamine, find your people, and build a life that feels real.
Not always easy, but so worth it.
Hughes definitely got us thinking, like, what if we could redesign the world to support those deeper needs connection, meaning in a healthy way? Something to ponder, right? Thanks for diving in depth with us today, everyone.